this video, I'm going to take you through director Ryan Coogler's journey from Fruitvale Station to Black Panther and the 5 things that I learned from his experience. So the inflection point of Ryan's career is really his debut feature film, Fruitvale Station, which was shot in around 2012, released early 2013. So around 9 years ago now. And this film premiered at Sundance, it won the Grand Jury Award, it won the Audience Award, and then it played at Cannes. So, it's extremely rare for a feature film to play both Sundance and Cannes. It's even rarer for it to be a debut feature film. So that film that he made, Fruitvale Station, really is that inflection point, and you can see the trajectory of his career just skyrocket from that point on. And so what I want to do in this video is really focus on that debut feature film and really unpack what it was that made that film so successful that then allowed Ryan to have this just explosive success afterwards. What's crazy about Ryan as well is he's only 36 years old today. And so this video is 2022. He's 36 years old. Black Panther is about to be released, the second one. No doubt it's going to be a huge success. And so this trajectory has happened over a 10-year period, but really it all started with that debut feature film. So if anyone's not familiar with the feature film Fruitvale Station, firstly, I highly recommend you watch it. I watched it last night with my wife. It was an extremely moving, well-crafted, well-performed, and well-executed film. And really, it's a tragic story that is told, and it's really moving at the end of the film as well. And so I could totally see how so many people and audiences around the world really were moved by that film and by that story. So it tells the story of 22-year-old Oscar Grant, who was tragically killed at Fruitvale Station on New Year's Eve in 2008. And so the film takes place over that New Year's Eve period leading up to the tragic circumstances surrounding his death. And at the time of that event, Ryan, from what I understand, had just started studying at USC. He had made one short film, and in interviews, he really expresses how this event, deeply affected him. And he, immediately knew that he wanted to tell this story through the medium of a feature film. And it sounds like he really got to work on that film quite soon after the event. Also, interestingly, at the same time, his the eventual star of the film, Michael B. Jordan, also obviously was exposed to that event, like many people in America, and was deeply moved by it. But it wasn't until 4 years later, when that script landed on his desk, that he knew he wanted that part, and that part was important to him. Ryan actually says that he wrote that script with Michael in mind. So those are the event. That's kind of how the genesis of the film began. And so what I want to take you through now is really the 5 lessons that I learned from his experience making this film. So number 1 is the importance of a powerful motivator. So when you're making a feature film, it's so hard to do, right? And it's so easy to quit because it's so hard. But if you have a really powerful motivator, if you have something inside you compelling you to tell that story, then it becomes much harder to quit. And so in my own personal experience, when I've made feature films, I know that it's those films that I've felt compelled to make that are, I'm really driven to make. That I'm the most committed to, but B, I'm able to come the greatest challenges when it comes to financing the film or producing the film. If I have that powerful motivator within me, then I'm able to overcome a lot of those challenges. And I think with this film, that powerful motivator was there from the start. And what's interesting is when you have that powerful motivator, it's not only important for yourself, but it's actually quite helpful when you're trying to get other people into the project or on board the project in some way, because if they can see that there's this, important reason to tell the story, and that you're compelled to tell the story, and that you're extremely passionate about it, they can see that, and that will rub off on them as well. And so interestingly, Ryan submitted this screenplay to the Sundance Screenwriting Lab, where it was accepted. And I want to read out a quote from one of the people at the lab that really drives this point home. So they said, as I listened to Ryan speak about why he needed to tell this story, his deep personal commitment to the project became evident. Between his script, a great short film, and this meeting, our interest in supporting Ryan was immediate and unflagging. So we'll come back to the script and the short film during this video, but for now it's just seeing how that importance of having that powerful motivator can really help when you're pitching the film to other people, to financiers, to labs, agencies, whoever it might be. If they can see that passion within you and that passion is authentic, then that's going to come across, and it's really going to help with when you're pitching the film. So that's number one, really just having that powerful motivator and that compelling reason to tell the story. The second one is that he proved himself on a smaller scale before going into the feature film. So he had made, I think he made 3 short films at USC. One he made in 2008 called Locks, and he made one in 2009 called Fig. And Fig is the one that I just referred to in that quote from Sundance. What's interesting about these 2 short films is that neither of them were like a huge success. Like, they didn't premiere at Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, Venice, any of those really major short films. Fig had a decent festival run from what I can see. It played at Newport International Film Festival, which is a decent short film festival. And so it looks like it had, a decent festival run, but nothing that would kind of scream out that, this director is the person to watch. But a couple things from this. Number one is that he didn't go out and try and make a feature film straight away. He knew that he needed to cut his teeth on shorts. Obviously, it helped that he was at film school, but by making those short films, he was able to even test his own skills at a smaller scale. On the other side, he also didn't go and make 10 short films before trying to make a feature film, right? He made 3 and then went into the feature. And from the interviews that I read, he was thinking about making a short film, and he was a feature film, and he was working on a feature film really from the moment that he got to USC. He says that everyone at USC really just had a feature on their mind, and so the shorts was always a stepping stone. So I think it's that combination of proving yourself on a short scale, doing it just enough times, right? 2 or 3 times. If you made that many short films, that's enough to go make a feature. Don't go and make 10 short films. If you really just need to prove yourself a couple times and then show that raw potential of what's possible to people who you're trying to get on board the feature film. And if you can, and I think Ryan did this and likely did it well, is if you can have a through line between those short films and your feature films, that also really helps. So in his case, those 2 short films were also social realist dramas, which is what Fruitvale Station is. And so anyone watching those films can see the through line between his short films and then the feature film that he's trying to make. So these short films, though, were enough to get him noticed. So his professor at USC put him in touch with Forrest Whitaker. So Forrest had just started a production company with Nina Bongiovi, I hope I've got that right, and they were looking for emerging filmmakers to work with, and so the USC professor put Ryan in touch with Forrest. Ryan pitched the film, and they obviously loved the project and jumped on board. And so that takes me to point number 3, or the third lesson that I learned, which is, again, just having the importance of having producers in your corner. So when you're trying to make a feature film, and particularly if it's a debut feature film, everything's new to you. And so if you can get a producer or an EP or someone in your corner that has been there and done it, that knows the mechanics behind how the industry works and how a feature film actually goes from a screenplay to going into production. That can be extremely beneficial because it's all new to you. Yes, you've made a short film, but the difference between making a short and a feature, they're so different when you think about the business and the finance side of it. They're completely different beasts. And having that producer or those producers in his corner certainly helped him. It also helped for creative reasons. So his first draft came in at 140 pages. They helped him get it down to 115 pages. The first budget came out, so they scheduled the project. It came in at about 600K. Ultimately, it got pushed up, I think due to actors, due to the locations, like they shot at the actual station, they were shooting on trains. So those would have been expensive, and they filmed on 16 mils, so there would have been an added cost there. So it ultimately went up to about 900K. But those producers were able to go and raise that finance for him. Now, he also got access to a couple of grants from what I saw, one from the Bay Area, and I think a Sundance one or something similar. So there's probably a couple hundred K in grants. And then the majority of the finance initially came from one private investor. But if only it was that easy. So stick around, I'm going to tell you about some of the real issues that they had with finance and how the project almost fell over during production. But for now, if you're liking the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, let me know what you think about the video in the comments section below. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to give you a little fun fact, which is that Ryan actually set out never intending to be a filmmaker. He was in a completely different profession or area of study, and then his life took a turn and got him now to the success that he's having today. So number 3, producers in your corner. Number 4 is resourcefulness. So yes, he shot on 16 mil. Yes, he had access to some big locations like train stations and stuff like that. But he shot in just over 2 weeks, 115 page script. And anyone that's made even a short film knows that that is fast. And then if you're shooting on film as well, where your setups and just getting the camera ready is going to take longer, like that is extremely economic when you think about how fast he must have been moving to shoot that film in just over 2 weeks. And so resourcefulness is a common one, right? Like this is something I think that if you're going to make a feature film, particularly a low budget film or a debut feature film, you have to be resourceful. But this just really stuck out for me. And we've made films fast. Like I've made a feature film in 14 days. I've shot a film with like 30 locations in, I think it was 18 days. So I've made them fast, but even still, you know, like those films were typically like 80, 90 page scripts. So this is adding another 25 pages on top of that. Now, they couldn't shut down the streets because of the budget. And so in the film, you'll even see like there are shots where they're in the car shooting outwards towards the street. And you can see like those aren't extras. They're just people going about their daily lives. And so it seems like he incorporated a lot of that, you know, Cassavetes or French New Wave style of really just getting out there and immersing yourself in the environment and shooting in the environment, even if that means that it's all not perfectly staged and not everyone's an extra. And of course that's due to budgetary constraints, but I think the point is there to like embrace those constraints, and obviously be extremely resourceful to get through a shoot that quickly. So that's number 4. The 5th thing that I learned is really the importance of goodwill, but also the like indirect nature of it. And so let me run you through this. So when they were shooting the film, like during production, some of the finance fell through. Now I'm not sure if a finance you pulled out or some money didn't come through, or it was just the cash flow. So, you know, money was promised at a certain time, but it didn't come on time, it came later. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Basically, they couldn't make payroll. So their bank account was down to 0 or very close to 0. And, you know, anyone that's made a film before knows that that can be really catastrophic. And so what happened was that one of the actors, Octavia Spencer, actually stepped in and firstly agreed, I think, to defer her fee, and secondly started making calls to investors or people that could put them in touch with investors. Basically, she started hustling and trying to find money for the project. And ultimately she did. She found financiers who could come in and provide gap financing and ensure that the film was completed. Now, there's no way that an actor would do that if there wasn't a high level of goodwill in the project. And I think that can stem from two things. Number one, it's the film itself, right? It's like that powerful motivator that I spoke about at the start. That is there. But I think almost more importantly, is that there's goodwill with the filmmaker, because someone is sticking their neck out for you. Someone is going to someone else and asking them for money to support you and your vision. So even if you had the powerful motivator, I think if the goodwill wasn't there for the filmmaker, then I'm not sure that a person like Octavia or someone else would stick their neck out. And so that really, to me, just drives that point home of, it really is important to create goodwill on your project. It's important to be a good person. It's important to treat people well. Because if you do all these things, and you should do them naturally, right? But there can be these indirect or unknown benefits or intangible benefits that could come back to the project at a later stage. And so it's not to say that you should do those things with that in mind, but you should do those things because it's the right thing to do. And as a result, sometimes that can create some luck for you, or it can be, it can come in handy or create a benefit for you down the track. So that just drove that point home, because I don't think that, in this case, Octavia would have stepped in if that goodwill in the project didn't exist. So those are the 5 things that I learned. And then what happened with the film is, it premiered at Sundance. It was bought by a distributor 2 days before for $2.5 million. So that's an immediate profit for the investors, and likely would have happened like pretty soon after the film was finished. So the turnaround to a profit is quick. It's a high return on investment. The film, like I said, went on to play at Cannes. It then went on to make $17 million at the worldwide box office. So not only was it a critical success at that time, but it was also a commercial success. And it was after this that Ryan got the call up to direct Creed, starring no other than Michael B. Jordan. It had a $35 million budget. So it's gone from $1 million to $35 million. And that film went on to make $173 million at the box office. And no doubt that cemented his position as not only an extremely talented director, an independent director, but someone who can also be extremely commercially successful with their projects and make blockbuster films. And so, of course, after that, as most will know, he went on to direct the first Black Panther. He was reunited with Michael and Forrest on that film. And if you're watching this video, it will be likely right on when Black Panther 2 is released. And I have no doubt that that is going to be, just as critically and just commercially successful. So those are the things that I learned. And I think, like I mentioned at the start of the video, it's this film, Fruitvale Station, that is just that inflection point. You have the 2-3 shorts before, and then you have the blockbusters, this extreme success on the other side, and sitting right in the middle, at least at this moment, is that first feature film. So those are the 5 things that I learned. Quick fun fact, he actually started out wanting to play football and be a doctor, and it was only when he was taking some sort of creative writing class that his English professor told him that he should be writing scripts and selling them to Hollywood. And I think that he instantly fell in love with the process of writing and then applied to USC, and the rest, as they say, is history. All right, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you thought in the comment section below. And if you liked this video, I'm sure you'll like this one as well. So make sure you check that out, and I'll see you on the next one.